Okay, let's go ahead and get started, because we have got so much exciting stuff to tell you. Yay. Thank you for joining the librarian session today. I am Holly Hubenschmidt. I am joined here by Beth Price, also from the library, and Mary Ann Irwin contributed a lot to this presentation but could not join us today, so we do want to acknowledge her. We want to talk to you today about free resources to teach the Global Citizenship Program skills and content. We know there are textbooks out there, and we know that there are amazing textbooks out there, and we know that textbooks are the purview of the faculty, and you all need to take the very best source to teach what you need to teach. So we totally acknowledge that, and there are times when a traditional textbook is the very best resource for students to purchase, to use. But there's a lot of alternatives out there, some of which you might be might be aware of, some of which might be new to you, and that's what we want to bring to you today. And maybe we'll just be clicking like this. So, our agenda for today is to talk a little bit about kind of the background of textbooks. I think we could say textbooks are expensive and everybody would nod, but it's a little more complicated than that. Alternatives to the textbooks, kind of how these mesh with the GCP skills, and some that you might want to consider, how to find and use these materials, including kind of the ethics, copyright, things like that, and then we'll discuss just a little bit. So the textbook landscape. We said textbooks are expensive. That is not a surprise to anyone. You can see from the slide that inflation keeps going up. Cost of textbooks going up a little more. I think our salaries are right about here. So, you know, it's a hardship. And there's plenty that the university acknowledges. You know, in St. Louis, if you have difficulty getting a textbook, Student Affairs has like an emergency textbook loan program that they can help you out. But this is what we're up against. And with publishers, it's a monopoly. You know, if you want that textbook, there's one publisher. There's not a lot of choice. You have to pay what they say. You could do used books. You could pit Amazon against the bookstore, against other websites. But it's not a friendly environment, especially for our students. Out of a group in Florida, the Florida Virtual Campus, which covers most of the University of Florida system, did a survey, and they repeated it, and asked the students about choices they've had to make about textbooks. And of course, a lot of students say they had not purchased the required textbook, which we know. And if they purchase it, are they going to read it? That's a whole nother presentation. But some of them are choosing to not register for a course based on knowing the cost of the textbook, or dropping a course. So it actually becomes a retention issue in the U.S. So we acknowledge that textbooks are expensive. According to research, textbooks are impacting how we retain our students from class to class and perhaps overall at the university. And anecdotally, we've probably all heard stories. I know we have in the library from student workers of students who have opted not to take a course because of the textbook, who have, we've got one that's dropping out of the university because although she's got funding for her tuition, the housing and everything else, she does not want to rack up the loans for all of these extra costs. It's a university budget issue because at our international campuses, we purchase the textbooks for the students. Part of that is operating in that environment, the requirements of that environment, and part of it is that we are a really expensive university in Europe where generally higher education is free or very low cost. So we have to purchase those textbooks for the students to compete in that environment. And at our international campuses, that is a pretty pricey proposition. At most of the international campuses, the librarians are the ones who manage the textbooks. So I told them and said, what did you pay last year for textbooks? $877,000 just at the international campuses. So even if we can make a dent in that 10%, that's something in this financial situation. So we want to make a dent in it. But the textbook publishers and the bookstores are still out there wanting to continue to make profit. The bookstore response is mixed. I went to a conference last month and heard very different things from people at different universities around the country. Some bookstores have been very supportive and tried to find ways to work with faculty, offering course packs and different things. Some bookstores have not been so supportive and have even gone to the point of pushing back, looking at their contract, saying if the library starts pushing open access resources, you're competing with the bookstore and we have a no compete clause, and actually getting legal-ish in their response. The textbook publishers are, of course, very nervous because they've got a really good thing going, basically getting faculty to write textbooks where the faculty are going to make nothing off of these books, but the publishers are going to sell them for a really high price. So the textbook publishers are nervous. And one of the responses out of some of the bigger textbook publishers, Pearson, McGraw, is to have like a learning environment that your students can buy into very cheaply. And they will have all kinds of supporting materials for your class. So maybe for something as cheap as $25, your students can buy into accessing this learning environment. It doesn't sound so bad when you think $25. But at this conference I went to, there were some very strong concerns raised. One of them is that there's advertising embedded in these platforms. So as a student going through Pearson's, whatever you call this environment, they're going to see some ads popping up. Maybe that's not terrible, but when I mentioned that to our librarian in Vienna, both the librarians threw a fit because, at least in Austria, I don't know if it's true in Switzerland, you cannot advertise by law in the classroom. There can be no advertising. So they interpreted this as you're advertising in the classroom, in a virtual classroom. The other concern is that when the student first gets in, there's this little checkbox that we all just check saying, I agree to your terms and conditions. They're collecting, these textbook publishers are collecting a huge amount of information on how students use these materials, when they use these materials, just data about the students, and that's very concerning that we're selling all of that very cheaply. Webster's Campus Bookstore, we haven't worked too closely with them yet. We are working on getting a copy of the contract so we can see what our agreement actually says. But we did hear from our dean in the library recently that the bookstore has offered, if you would like to not have your students purchase a textbook, but instead have them purchase just a chapter from a book. They can do that much more cheaply. For about $25, they will have copies of a book chapter. But the library will do that for free. For free, the library will do that for free. So that made our hackle stand up on our back. So one of the things we want to do today is make sure that you're aware of some of the services that we offer in addition to some of the resources that are out there that can make your class really interesting. Bringing in chapters from a variety of textbooks brings in all kinds of perspectives that students don't necessarily get from one book. But we can get you 14 chapters from 14 different books, no cost. We will scan it, we will put it in your World Classroom page. All you have to do is let us know what you want, and preferably give us a week or two to get it in there, because scanning takes a little time.
Okay. So Holly has framed the issues for us, talked a little bit about the background of textbooks and how they're affecting student retention and success rates. So I'd like to just now take a look at some alternatives to textbooks. Complete alternatives are just maybe something to augment the use of the textbooks in the classroom. And we're going to look specifically at library resources, open educational resources, also called OERs, and a specific type of open educational resource, which is called open textbooks. So library resources and services, the one most near and dear to our hearts. Okay. Holly mentioned that the library will assist in digitizing and posting to World Classroom different chapters from books, periodical articles. Maybe there are certain articles that you really want your students to see. We can't put journals on hold, but we can digitize the articles for you, put them up in the World Classroom, and make that available to your students for free. So it gives the instructor a little more control over exactly what material they want instead of just what's available in the textbook. We also have streaming videos available through Films on Demand, Canopy's MES video collection, dance and video, theater and video, and lots of other free streaming videos to pull into the instructional classroom. And lynda.com, the library subscribes to lynda.com. If you haven't tried it out, I would really highly recommend it. There are lots of different video courses taught by experts in the field or in the industry. And that is one thing that lynda.com really has as an advantage, is it really is experts in the field. It's not just anyone posting a YouTube video out there and not knowing nothing about their credentials. I've taken several of their courses. They range anywhere from 5 minutes to hours or weeks of coursework. So it's definitely something worth exploring, and you can find that going in through Connections and exploring a little bit of lynda.com. If you have any questions about what library services we offer, or if you have an idea and you just want to know if we can do it, every department has a liaison at the library. You can contact your liaison and they can talk with you about whether your idea is something we can do, or we can work together to try and make it happen. And the easiest way, if you don't know your liaison, you can just go to the library website and in our search box, type in faculty liaison, liaison services, and it will bring up your liaison contact information. Or just contact the library in general, and we can help you find resources for your classroom. Okay, so library resources. The second thing we wanted to look at are open educational resources, also called OERs. So there are many definitions of open educational resource. One is up here on the screen. Another one that I really like is open educational resources include full courses, course materials, modules, textbooks, streaming videos, tests, software, and any other tools, materials, or techniques used to support access to knowledge. And open educational materials really, one of the main goals is to promote sharing and to break down price and permission barriers for educational and scholarly materials. So those are the goals of OERs. They can be in any medium, including digital, print. It doesn't have to just be online to be an open educational resource. And they can be found in many places on the internet. And there are specific finding aids to help you narrow in on the educational resource that you want and to find something that is specific for your needs. A few of those finding aids include OER Commons. It's a public digital library of open access resources. Merlot is another finding aid that provides access to curated online learning and support materials and content creation tools. And one that we don't have up there that I really like also is Mason OER MetaFinder, and that's through George Mason University in Virginia. And it will simultaneously search OER repositories for you based on the subject area that you're teaching. There are all kinds of filters and limits that you can use. Some more general internet searches will bring up things like YouTube and TED Talks, which are also available as open educational resources in that they have, some of the materials on those sites have Creative Commons licenses that allow you to remix and use specific parts of it and have very permissive copyright licenses or Creative Commons licenses that will allow you to use them and often adapt them in the classroom. Okay. So this is an example of the Merlot OER search option, and we just wanted to point out you really can, there's just a plethora of materials out there, and sometimes the challenge is finding something that works for you and for your coursework. So exploring these meta search engines is really helpful, and you can see here in below, they allow you to limit by audience. They allow you to limit by license. So you might want to have them just show you materials that have Creative Commons licenses. Material type limits and things like that. So the finding aids are really worth exploring. And also things like YouTube. You may or may not know that YouTube also allows you to filter to just show you videos that have Creative Commons licenses so that you know you can use them in the classroom without any copyright concerns. If you haven't seen these filters before, when you pull up a YouTube video, there's a show more link, and there will be a filter there that will bring up all these options. You can ask it to show you the most recent videos that have been posted, ones that are shorter or longer. So these filters are really useful also, again, in getting to what you need for your classroom and your resources. And we also wanted to point out TED Talks. They're amazing materials, great for using in the classroom. They do have an interesting Creative Commons license that you should be aware of. It's a little more restrictive than other Creative Commons licenses. You can use it for non-commercial use. You must attribute TED as the owner. Again, no commercial purposes. But this is the thing we wanted to point out. You can't remix, create derivative works, or modify TED Talks, which some universities take to mean that you can't take just a small portion of a TED Talk and clip it out and show it in your classroom. There is some, it's open to interpretation, but one way that you can get around that is to use the entire TED Talk, but tell your students to start at minute 35 and watch these portions of the minute. So we just did want to make you aware of the wonderful TED Talks, but also that they do have some more restrictive licensing.
Before you go on, let me just throw out one of the things that's a little bit scary in my mind about building a course, which is so much work, and incorporating these materials is they're kind of freely out there on the web, and which means they can also freely disappear off the web. some of these things, depending on the license, we could download for you and put it in your course. So it isn't a matter necessarily of even you having the link and then crossing your fingers that it's going to be there when your students need it. But if it's a TED Talk or a YouTube video and it's got the proper licensing, we can go ahead from the library or from the FTC, download that for you so that it will be there.
Yeah, that's an excellent point, and one that I don't want to forget to bring up when we get into the open textbook section is one of the wonderful things about the open textbook library is they have a deep archive of all the materials that they put up there, so they will never disappear. And you can also personally archive them. You can just download the whole thing and keep it, or we could keep it for you. So that's another beauty of the open textbook library. They don't disappear. Okay, and open textbooks. So the last of the three things that I wanted to point out today are open textbooks. They are one form of open educational resources. One of the definitions of an open textbook is it's a specific type of OER that is designed to be free or low-cost substitute for a traditional textbook. And as I said, you may choose to just augment your material. Maybe you'll teach with a textbook for a few years as you explore also using this in addition to your materials. While there's not an open textbook for every course, the format is growing as faculty are starting to adopt them and adapt them. That is another wonderful thing about open textbooks, is in the open textbook library, they all allow you to adapt them. So you could take an open textbook and say, you know, I like this and this about it, but I would really like to change this about this chapter. You can do that. Kind of make it your own, and it becomes your open textbook. Like OERs, there are many websites to help faculty become aware of and adopt this content. One such site is College Open Textbooks, which is a product of COT Education, C-O-T Education. They have about 800 books right now. Another organization that Webster Library recently joined through Mobius is the Open Textbook Library from the Open Textbook Network. And that's what we want to look at a little more closely today. And we're going to look at that in just a moment. Now, there we go. Thank you, Holly. So what is the Open Textbook Library, also called the OTL? It's grown and maintained by the Open Textbook Network, which is an alliance of schools of higher education, and it's run out of the University of Minnesota Open Educational Network. It's a source of openly licensed textbooks available for anyone to download and use for free. One thing I love about it, students, millennials, even complain about screen fatigue, which is a concern for some people to tell them to read completely online. All of the open library textbooks are available to download in PDF format. That's one of the requirements. So they can be downloaded and printed at low cost. But you can also, they're also available as EPUBs, so they can also be read online. So that is an option to be aware of. So the criteria for inclusion in the open textbook library, sometimes we get questions about, well, if it's free, how can we know it's any good? How can we know about the quality? The open textbook library requires that it has an open license that allows for derivatives. It must be a complete book, not just individual chapters. It has to be portable, as I said, available in a PDF and downloadable. And it must currently be in use at multiple higher educational institutions or affiliated with a higher education institution, scholarly society, or professional organization. So they do have criteria for the quality of their material. Current publishers of open textbooks include names like OpenStax, down there on the bottom left, through Rice University, system-wide initiatives like Open SUNY, and local programs like PDX Open at Portland State University. This is a snapshot in 2018 of what the open textbook library looks like currently. There are right now 450 plus open textbooks in 14 subject areas. All are open and freely available, unlimited users. You can't say, well, only 5 of my students at a time can use this. It is simultaneous, unlimited use. And many of the books in the open textbook library, in fact about 67%, include reviews by faculty at other institutions. So you can read what faculty have said about these materials and what they thought about using them. Most of them have 4 or 5 stars from the reviewers. And we'll talk a little bit more about the criteria for reviewing in just a moment. And the goal of the Open Textbook Library or Open Textbook Network is to connect faculty with open options that can be adopted and adapted to meet custom teaching needs. Okay? And they refer to themselves, they call themselves a referatory. So they don't actually make all of the textbooks, but they will refer you out to other sources like OpenSUNY or OpenStax to help you find and evaluate textbooks across the curriculum. Okay, so why consider open textbooks? The selection criteria, which I mentioned, having open licenses, adaptable, being used at other institutions, speaks to its credibility. As Holly talked about, it helps mitigate costs for students and campuses and facilitates accessibility. So these are reasons that we're encouraging just exploring the option of what open textbooks might have to offer. And lastly, I wanted to just show you what it looks like, what the library looks like. So this is an example of one book in the Open Textbook Library. And I just wanted to point out, they have chapter information. They have a little bit about the book. Here's the links to the PDF, the EPUB, and just reading it online. You can see it has 26 reviews, 4.5 stars. And then we couldn't get a screenshot of the whole thing, but they have, each of those reviews will have different review criteria. And the review criteria includes, it's a review rubric that they give all the reviewers. It includes things like comprehensiveness, content accuracy, relevance, clarity, consistency, modularity, organization, grammatical errors, and cultural relevance. So they ask the reviewers to address all of those things when they're reviewing the books. So to give you an idea of what to expect from the open textbook. Okay, and now Holly is going to walk us through some examples of how you can use each of these with the GCP skills.
And thank you for sitting through our slides thus far. They've been a little wordy, but now we're going to get to the image part of the presentation and talk about these GCP skills and what are some of your options out there. So written communication for a library resource, we just thought we'd go with a good old-fashioned book. I've got a book here called Becoming an Academic Writer, 50 Exercises for Pace, Productive, and Powerful Writing. And it is a whole series of exercises that you can run with your students, from actually prompts for writing to proofreading, editing, to giving peer review of different drafts, of a first draft, of a middle draft, of a final draft. This is definitely something that if you were interested in this, in your students having a portion of this, we could scan it, put it in your World Classroom course. According to fair use, and we'll get a little bit into fair use and copyright, we interpret that at Webster as 25% of a book. We figure we can scan up to 25% of a book for your students as long as it goes into a safe environment like World Classroom and not affect the market value. So we will count to the page, but if you need several chapters from a book, we can do that for you. Open Textbook Library has several titles in written communication that look really good. Writing in College, From Competence to Excellence, Writing Spaces, and as Beth said, you can assign all of these, you can assign part of these, you can take pieces and adapt them, incorporate them into your presentations, your assignments. And then open educational resources. In this case, we went with Merlot. And a lot of the open educational resources tend to be in-class activities. Some of them are very heavy in that aspect. So here's frameworks for academic writing. And this one actually is more of a reading about writing. But there's definitely support there if you are expected to teach writing in your course and perhaps you have not been extensively trained in teaching writing. There are definitely supports that the library can provide so that your students aren't having to buy another textbook or worry about additional sources, and you will know that they all have access to them. For oral communication, I went for the library resources with one of our favorites, lynda.com. Initially, when I heard about Lynda, I thought of it as that place you go to learn about technology. Want to learn how to get good at Excel, you go to Lynda. It's got so much more than just the technology learning piece. For freshman seminars, we've got some great things on like time management and all these different skills we're trying to help new students get. As far as oral communication, there were two presentations in Lynda that really caught my eye. One was writing speeches, and it's about a 2-hour-long video. The other one that caught my eye was Public Speaking Foundations, which is about an hour long. We can all be honest. We don't know if students will commit an hour or 2 hours to these videos, but we can try. The other thing that's really wonderful about Lynda is that you log in through Connections. It's on your faculty tab. That's how you get to Lynda. And one thing, you should create an account. Once you create an account, you have access to all of this supplementary material. So between these two videos, there are things like activities, rubrics provided for you, storyboard templates, and checklists for your students as they, things that they should consider, even about the space that they're presenting in. Look at the audience, what's going to be the best place for eye contact. What are the limitations of the room? These checklists I would not have thought to run through with students. The open textbook library, pretty straightforward. Stand up, speak out, the practice and ethics of public speaking. And then for our open educational resources, we have a YouTube video. I should just read it off here for some reason. This is a workshop on public speaking from a senior lecturer at Queen's University, Belfast, and a visiting professor at McGill. So definitely somebody with the qualifications, and somebody potentially with an accent that could be really lovely to listen to for a while. So again, public speaking, one of those things that for a lot of these courses we are expected to teach, something that we have not necessarily had a lot of training in. Definitely some resources out there from some really high quality experts that can help support that. And these are just examples. There are tons out there. Critical thinking. For the library resources, I picked an ebook called Social Media and Your Brain. One thing to consider with the library ebooks, this is a 2017 ebook. Chapter 5 in this ebook is called Does Social Media Interfere with the Capacity to Make Reasoned Arguments? That could be a really interesting discussion. If you are going to use a library ebook in your teaching, one thing to consider is we often have the choice when we purchase an ebook to purchase a multi-user copy or a single-user copy. There's a price difference. You try to get the multi-user copy, but sometimes we're limited to a single user. And in this case, this is a single-user copy. So your first student that gets in is the lucky one. The rest of them may not be able to get in. But this is a case where if you just want that chapter 5, let us know. We will download it. We will put it in your course. So if you are going to use a library ebook, it doesn't hurt to reach out to a librarian and then just make sure that the permissions are there. We are not opposed to purchasing extra copies of a textbook if the budget allows. We're kind of waiting on the budget right now. We think it's going to be a pretty lean year as far as purchasing. But we're going to work with you and do whatever we can. So the Open Textbook Library has some fun here with stick figures with critical thinking, which is, this is the Open Textbook Library. They have Introduction to Logic and Critical Thinking. So the goal of this textbook is to provide the reader with a set of tools and skills that it will enable them to identify and evaluate arguments. And then for our OER, we've got a work called False, Misleading, Clickbaity, and Satirical News Sources. It's a 2016 article under Creative Commons license. Intercultural Competence. This is one where I think the Open Textbook Library really shines, as Beth had mentioned, because in the reviews it talks about the intercultural capacity, global competence of the book. And faculty, the reviews on these open textbooks here in the middle are very lengthy. Faculty that are doing these reviewing are going to great lengths to really talk about why this is useful, why this is not. They're sharing a lot of information. So from the Open Textbook Library, we've got Leading with Cultural Intelligence, but you do get that element for any book in the library. They're going to tell you if it's very U.S.-centric or if it really does speak to broaden horizons. For the library resource here, I stumbled across, and I have to admit, a little mistake we have, but this 2011 series of videos, it's a 6-part video series. Each video is about 30 minutes, and they're about privilege. And there's white privilege, male, straight privilege, Christian privilege, social class, and able-bodied privilege. 30 minutes, little videos. They're kind of talking heads, but they do have a transcript there, so they're pretty accessible. They're short. They're available in a database that's called Counseling and Therapy in Video, Volume 2. But you should be able to get to them just by searching in the library catalog. So this is in one of the library's streaming video databases. The little thing we realized as we were searching is that in the catalog, for some reason, this load of records got corrupted, so it's actually listed as music. And that was what caught my eye at first was, what is this song that's called White Privilege in this country? So I clicked on it and realized, oh no, we got to clean that up. But there is right on the library's homepage a video search. And if you do search that, as long as everything's properly coded at the back end, you can search all of our video databases at once. So you can get the full breadth of what we've got. Okay, so the library has streaming video. You've got the Open Textbook Library option. And then here the Open Educational Resource is World of Walls, the Structure, Roles, and Effectiveness of Separation Barriers by someone called Saeed Sadiki, a professor at Tulane University of Science and Technology. So definitely a wide variety of things to look at. And I believe we have one more GCP skill, ethical reasoning. So in this case for the library resource, I went back to basics again and just looked through articles. And I found this article called Wearable Technologies in Collegiate Sports, the Ethics of Collecting Biometric Data from Student Athletes. And I thought, I could see in a first-year seminar a group of, younger undergrads trying to get a discussion started with this particular topic. There are also some great videos in Films on Demand about ethics if you really want to get more in the foundational parts, points of ethics about some of the great thinkers and things like that. There are those videos out there. but I was just trying to envision in a first-year seminar class, what would you want to get a conversation started? And I thought they might rather talk about biometric data in sports than some of the great thinkers. But you know your students better. The Open Textbook Library has ethics for A-level, which is key ideas in the fields of normative ethics, meta-ethics, and applied ethics. And they're explained rigorously and systematically. That and a glass of Chardonnay. That was Saturday night there. And then OERs, we've gone to TED. We'll take some of their TED Talks and animate them. So some of the descriptions that a talking head might give you on a TED Talk, like describing the trolley problem, they will animate it. So making it a little more accessible than just sitting through the talking head. So we've got a variety of things through the library that can help you find these materials and use them ethically. And to be honest, we probably have too many access points for this. It's kind of, there's a lot of it and it's hitting fast, and we also have some demands from specific disciplines that want this approached in certain ways. So we really probably need to look at it and shrink it down to a little bit more succinct ways to direct you. The GCP skills, we have a research guide from the library, and for each of the skills, we have the rubric. And for every line of the rubric, there is a tab for teaching ideas that have been contributed by faculty here at Webster. Some of them are resources, some of them are activities. It's really a wonderful place to go to and take a look. It's also a wonderful place if you are doing something that is working well for you, that you are proud of. Let one of your librarians know, and we would be happy to add it to this repository. We do also have teaching and learning resources for the Global Citizenship Program, which has information on each of the skills. This is where it starts to get like, how many research guides are you going to throw at me? Come on. The open source textbooks project was actually done for the School of Education. They, of course, have got other motives for interest in open textbooks at the elementary and secondary level. So this, while this website has, this research guide has a lot of good information about open textbooks, some of it is aimed at those younger grades. And then we have a guide on open access as well. So it starts to get to be a little much. But this is also a good point to remind you that you've got a librarian out here willing to help. So please, if you have a need and you don't necessarily want to navigate all of this, fantastic reason to reach out to your librarian and say, hey, can you help? This is what I'm trying to teach. This is what I'm trying to do. Can you suggest something? We'd be happy to do that. So as far as the ethics of this, it's time for that. We are not lawyers, and we are not giving you legal advice, that caveat, that statement. But we've gotten pretty darn familiar with copyright, and we know some. And we also have some backup from what we've gotten from university counsel. So a lot of this, all of this really has been vetted by lawyers at the university, and they've agreed that this is, they're comfortable with this. Copyrighted materials, we do have a research guide, actually on the university website, on the faculty page, there is the copyright and fair use policies, and then there's a research guide called Copyright and Fair Use that gives you fair use by format and by use. So you have the option to look at these scenarios and say, well, you know, I want to show a video in my class. It's on Netflix. I'll just log into my Netflix account and show it. That's illegal. We could, you know, if you want to show that video, we will work with you to see if we can get that video. But if you're going to log into your Netflix account, please don't tell us. We don't want that happening. But that's going to give you, you know, if I want to show a video in class, what percentage of that video could I have scanned and put in my World Classroom shell? Because it is much smaller. It's not going to be 25% of the video. It's probably going to be 5 minutes or less. But it's going to give you those scenarios. And then we have an open access materials. In our open access materials research guide, we get much more deeply into the Creative Commons licensing and what that entails. So copyright and fair use, this is the legal interpretation that University Council has come up with, that we can use a chapter from a book up to 25% of the book. But we have to remember, out-of-print books have copyright protection, so even if it's something out of print, we are willing to try to purchase a used copy. But they're still protected. Consumables, we have to stay away from, because photocopying something like a workbook or a commercial case study, that does affect the market value, so we cannot go there. And we do need to restrict all of this to students that are currently enrolled, which is why we really want to put it in your World Classroom shell. Greg Kettinger, who works in the library, kind of oversees all of that, and he has like a master ability to get into your shell, pop something in files, and get out. And then with that Creative Commons license, this is really a lot more complicated than I initially thought. I thought Creative Commons, that means it's friendly. Yeah, pretty much, but there are different levels. The CC BY is the most permissive. It gets somewhat restrictive as you go. So it's just kind of good to be aware that Creative Commons is a little bit more in-depth than just CC. And here's another version. So they've got both this coding, they've also got these symbols. If you have questions, we are happy to help you interpret it. And there might come a point when we say, you know, we don't know. We can take it to the library dean, and if she's not comfortable making a call on that, we will take it to University Council so we can get you an answer. So this was a lot of information, a lot of words. So we've got a pretty slide, and we thought we would, perhaps, take a few minutes to discuss.
Yeah. Do you have anything you're currently using, maybe in the open educational resource realm, or any questions you have about it, concerns, hopes, dreams, or otherwise? Feel free now to share, or let's go.
I have a video that I use for public health nursing every time, and then there's an adjunct who almost always teaches it at the same time as I do, and I come get the video, but I really need it. It's like a 6-part documentary on natural causes. I don't know if that rings a bell. We rent it all the time, but I need it for longer than 2 weeks, and if it's checked out, then we have to sort of coordinate to share it. And I'm just wondering, like, in those instances, is there a way to get that, I don't know, online, or so that we don't have to come in, rent it, or share it?
Definitely talk to your librarian, which is me.
Yeah.
And I can, if you send me the title of the series, I think Unnatural Causes is it, but I may forget.
I'll email you. Yeah. I just didn't even know that was possible until you started talking about this, and I thought, ooh, that's something.
And to be honest, when we're collecting now, we are trying to default to the electronic. So if it's a video, if there is streaming available, we would prefer to get the streaming.
Okay.
So I will definitely be happy to look into that. If we're seeing the usage, we could also look to see how much it's been checked out. If we're seeing that it's going every term, we can see about a second copy if the streaming is not available.
Okay, thank you.
Of course, that's all based on budget.
So I should probably just go pick it up.
Well, a streaming video commonly costs about $300, but you know,
maybe eventually.
Yes.
So you mentioned cutting scenes from a video. So if I were to do this legally for my class, whom would I go to at the library to help me with that? So some of our intermediate French language classes are built around films that the students see outside of class, but if we really want to discuss details of one scene, and I want to have that in the World Classroom page, just one scene that I can play over and we can all discuss together, how much time do I need to give the librarian who could help me?
You can talk to your liaison librarian, Elliot, or go straight to Greg Kettinger, because Greg is going to get caught in the mix.
Okay.
And they can let you know exactly what percentage, because it is a small percent more video. But they should be able to do that. If you can give a week's notice, that is fantastic. If it's like that last week before classes, if you can give like 2 weeks notice, because there are a lot of people that will come in 2 or 3 days before and say, oh, wait a minute, you know how busy everybody gets. And we want to be able to meet your needs. So the more time you can give us, that's great, but if it's last minute, let us know anyway. We'll see what we can do. We've got Sharon. Oh, before we go to Sharon.
So I'm going to teach a freshman seminar for the first time. Is there a librarian who will be assigned to the 18-year-olds and the professors out there?
Yes, there will. We assign a librarian to every single first-year seminar.
Okay.
I know we just divvied them up, and I can't remember who is with yours right now.
Okay.
But definitely, everybody should be reaching out to their librarians over the next week, because I think we just divvied them up on Thursday last week. So probably people haven't reached out yet. You will have a librarian assigned to you. If you want that librarian to present to your class, you can certainly do that. Most people do, but not everybody. And this is not necessarily because you're kind of teaching outside of disciplines. It could be any library. It may not necessarily be the liaison assigned that works with you normally. It's probably somebody who's just really passionate about your topic, because we get in there and we go, oh my gosh, I want that one. I want that one. Thank you. And I did want to acknowledge we've got Sharon on from Geneva. Sharon, did you have any questions? Anything you want to throw out from the international campus?
Well, it's first of all, they only get to choose me. They can't choose any other librarian when they're at the Geneva campus, but that's okay. I'm finding more and more it's quite interesting, the open textbooks. And just trying to present this to faculty so that they're willing to participate, I think is going to be a task. I think that the potential and what I'm seeing as far as what's available more and more, I think is quite interesting. But having them, particularly the adjuncts, actually go through and evaluate will be tough. But so anything else that gets developed, let me know.
Will do. We should say the Open Textbook Network and Library, we're really impressed with it. It's something relatively new for Mobius, and Beth went to some day-long training in Columbia, Missouri about it. So she's got a lot more information than I do about them. The textbooks they do seem to be heavily undergrad, which is probably the situation. We have, in talking with Sharon's the librarian in Geneva, in talking with the international librarians, Rose at the Thailand campus, that the international relations faculty in Thailand are going heavily to open access resources. So we're hoping that within our little network, we can start to share some of those resources as well with the faculty that teach in that area, and see if they feel like that's portable to what they're doing in the classroom.
How about the materials that are sitting in World Classroom? Did those get categorized? Could you have put them in your presentation, or that's a whole different category of resources that we were not really concerned with today? I was just wondering about the stuff in the comments.
Yeah, the comments. We are just beginning to try to explore what the library can do with that, and then to make sure if some of these things that we are copying under fair use, we might not be able to put in there if they are accessible to everybody. If they're just accessible to Webster, that might work, but we might need to look into that a little more closely. But definitely, you could be sharing some of the open textbooks or open educational resources if those are working for you, or we can try to curate them through the library that you're.
It's Sharon. Hi, it's Juliana. Sharon. Hi.
Oh, hi.
Sharon's done a great job on our campus introducing people to what's out there. But what you said, Holly, was absolutely true before, that there's such an overwhelming amount of stuff out there that you don't often know where to go first. And
Yeah.
this World Classroom resource adds another layer. So it's just very overwhelming for faculty, especially adjuncts.
It can be. I think it's helpful to have a guide that can help you search through some of that. I didn't realize about the meta services. I usually just go to OpenStax. I've used a lot of those textbooks because they're pretty similar, the intro level type textbooks. If I'm going to use a textbook, it's really easy to use. But I think letting people know that it's available is really helpful, because I think a lot of people don't. And, publishers are really aggressive. So we get 1,000 textbooks and emails from publishers, and it's easy. It's just easy to say, like, okay, I'll do this one. You click a button, and then you're done. And so I agree that it's like another level where you have to look for additional resources, but the textbooks are just like any other textbook. If you're going to use a textbook, it's set up exactly the same way. They have the same content, and it seems to work well. When I build an online class, I use all of the open source textbook classes.
Just cheaper. I was going to say, we've done different small explorations with faculty. With Nicole Miller-Strutman, she taught a course on kind of botany for non-majors, I believe it was. It was definitely a biology for non-majors course, and I think it was plant-related. And we covered like 14 different book chapters. So students bought nothing. She was honest that there were some caveats. It was definitely more work for her up front to try to gather these materials. You also lose something with a textbook. You've got a glossary. Often you get some supporting materials, maybe some infographics or something for your presentation, some slides to use and things like that. And she had to create a lot of that and then be really conscious that these are students that aren't biologists. Some of these terms I'm going to have to put on my PowerPoint or have some other supplementary source. But she said it worked really well, and it was really good to get them into some really popular materials, and then maybe into one or two kind of more scientific articles to let them see what the field looks like. So it worked well for her, but she did acknowledge there was a huge upfront cost to her. We also in this room we don't have anybody from the School of Business, but School of Business is really with their consistency project, having a list of approved textbooks.
Right.
And one of the things that we are intending to do this summer, we've already been in contact with the School of Business, is to start to get some of these open textbooks on that approved list. So we're going to be reaching out to some of those faculty to see if we can get that option out there.
Oh, that'd be great.
The expensive ones, the business ones, they're really expensive.
All the textbooks are expensive. They're crazy expensive.
That's
in the upper division classes, because most of the textbooks that I've found are really appropriate for intro level, but I haven't found a lot that I like for the upper division. But I usually do journal articles. So Nicole's right. I mean, that means that I have to build the whole syllabus, and I have to assign whatever articles I think are appropriate for that topic. But it also gives me a lot of control. So I don't mind taking the extra time to do that. But yeah, and then also it gets students reading original research articles, which they hate in sociology because there's always tables and charts and all of that. But it's good for them. So.
My youngest son is studying IR here now, and he came up with the idea that, Mom, when I do take a course where sometimes he buys the course pack from the department. They've actually put together the course and I guess gotten the permissions and sell a you know, photocopy, $10, here's a couple of articles we want you to read. He says it really is cool to get all those different perspectives, which I thought was pretty insightful for this guy that, you know.
Yeah.
For this young guy that I know and his limitations and his strengths. It was pretty insightful for him.
And he's reading it.
Yeah. And I know there's courses too. I know there's an infamous German course with a really expensive textbook that you use like over 3 courses then. But I know that initial cost is, you know, does have students questioning it. But as we said in the beginning, sometimes that is the best source. And so we've all kind of got to be supporting you all that that's the best source. And when the students come to the library and say, do you have my textbook? And we say no, we'll look at Mobius, we'll see what we can do. An older edition sometimes we can track down. You know, we're going to support you there. And we do tell them at times, you know, check Amazon, check other websites, check the book source, see what you can do, use copies. People have taken the course before.
So one thing I think I'm hearing is that if we had a one-stop shop place for meta searches of ways to make it easier for people to find these open educational resources would be one thing that might help.
Yeah.
Something that was streamlined, easy. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great.
So 4 research guides won't cut it. I hear you.
Well, I don't mind if there's 1,000 research guides. I use them all the time, so bring them on.
Research guides are wonderful. Just regarding comments, the idea is, along with what you've been presenting, is that faculty actually, through their departments, have their conversations and decide which content is a common, and based on that, share either modules or lessons or quizzes that other colleagues in their departments or maybe university-wide can use those resources. So if there's a particular unit that could be used somewhere else. So that's something what each department can look into, and we have point of contact both in online and in faculty center, because I was working on Commons as well. So I would be glad to support you, the department, if you plan to use Commons and have conversation more about that. It's really useful place to start, along with the
We're a team.
support.
And I hope that just kind of, that's a beautiful place to wrap up, is just, I hope you all feel supported, and if there is more that your library can be doing for you, that the Faculty Development Center can be doing for you, you know, holler, reach out, ask, email, you know, meet for coffee. We want to support you. We really are here to do that. And even in tough financial times, we will find a way.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Bye, Sharon. That was very helpful. Sharon and I are both enrolled in an Adobe train-the-trainer class.
Oh, good. One of those Spark things?
Not Spark, it's like all of them, so it's